You know what? Call me ignorant, whatever. I don't live in California. I live in South Carolina, opposite side of the world. So I don't know much about Joshua Tree. I don't know much about Death Valley. I can tell you one thing though. Here's Joshua Tree. In Entourage, Vince and his boys went there and they took some mushrooms and they made a movie. That's all I know. Here we go. We got Death Valley. I know two things. LSU named their stadium after it, and Clemson named their stadium after it. Clemson's obviously a much better team. Go Tigers. A little partial. It is my alma mater. Love it. Oh, other thing too. Make that two things I know about Death Valley. See, I'm educated here. David Goggins went down there and he ran 135 miles to the Bagland Basin. So crazy guy because it's a million degrees down there. So that's two things I know. So I had very few expectations going into this trip, but it was exciting because I got to figure out what both these places have to offer. And let me say, they offer a lot. Bear in mind, I only had a day in Joshua Tree. So though there's a lot more than this to do, if I only had a day and I had to do it again, my recommendations are Lost Palms Oasis, Chala Cactus Garden, White Tank and Bells, and then Ryan Mountain. Starting first in the Lost Palm Oasis, we came into that south gate, and it's kind of your first stop here as soon as you get to the check-in shack. Lots of waist-high shrubbery, naturally occurring succulents, lots of wildlife. You get on top of kind of a little pinnacle, and you feel like you're on Mars. It's really pretty. It's a very stark reminder of kind of the arid, dense landscape that so much of the Mojave and Colorado desert occupy. Going through the Lost Palm Oasis, you'll find that in addition to the arid landscape and rock formations, there are remnants that man has tried to tame the desert, and I would say unsuccessfully. You'll find old remains of mines, signs warning of active TNT, active mine shafts, and plenty of bats that have found a new home in the man-made caves. Just a stark reminder that the desert is not something that can be tamed. Well, maybe with the exception of Vegas, but more on that in a later video. It's been tamed for sure. As you venture north through the park, the next stop I recommend is the Chala Cactus Garden. Not nearly as involved as the previous, but still worth the stop. The Chala Cactus Garden is where the Mojave and the Colorado deserts meet. The border between these two deserts is just a thick, loaded down landscape of dense cactuses. They're all about waist high or less, but it's really interesting because you meet the two deserts and you find that though those two deserts border one another, they're different. They look different. They feel different. Colorado never crossing into the Mojave, and Mojave never into the Colorado. As you venture down the road, the next stop I recommend is White Tank and Bells. Occupied by a ton of large rock formations, you'll find natural arches, heart-shaped rocks, and plenty of bouldering to be had. Again, it reminds you of Mars. You feel like you're on a different planet, and it's really fun to just take a little bit and play on rocks, climb, and make your own paths. Great for if you're adventurous, if you're a rock climber, or maybe if you have young kids that just want to get out of the car and run around. Really cool place to just stop, kind of see Joshua trees intermittent with rocks, and climb as much as you can. The next place I recommend is Ryan Mountain, the pinnacle of our day, and also, I suppose, the pinnacle of Joshua Tree. You climb to the top of this mountain and you find 360-degree panoramic views of the entire park. Deserts on one side, mountains on the other. It's really, really pretty. It's really, really worth the hike. As rewarding and fun as these hikes were, I will give the one forewarning. Do bring lots of water. It gets really hot and it's arid. Finishing up the day, most importantly, had to go get some In-N-Out. It's a must-have if you're in California or that part of the country. We don't have it on the East Coast, and man, I wish we did. The next day, we got up and we went to Death Valley. I maybe did this a little bit backwards, but we only had a half day in Death Valley, and we could have spent a week there if I'm being honest. The place is larger than Yellowstone. It's larger than the Grand Canyon. It's larger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined. I think it's about the same size as Puerto Rico if you need a frame of reference. Death Valley is gigantic, and well, we had 4 hours there. But here's what I learned in 4 hours at Death Valley. Yeah, remember earlier where I mentioned David Goggins? I wanted to go there. 135 miles of flat. That said, while a giant salt flat may sound a little boring, there's actually quite a lot there to see. Keep in mind you're 200 feet below sea level, so you're very much in a valley. On top of that, it looks like snow. I mean, you're genuinely walking through there. You look like you're frolicking through a field full of snow, except it's 110 degrees. And you get to the end of the salt flat and you land in the Devil's Golf Course. Trust me, you don't want to play golf here. Look at these things. They have the texture of coral reef, but they have the sharpness of razor blades. We ventured up the trail and went into the mountains a little bit. We got a nice overlook of the salt flats, and then we ran out of time. I'll show you why we ran out of time. Of course, showing some respect for our alma mater, we did have to get a picture in front of the famous sign with the tiger paw. We have a stadium named Death Valley. Might as well go to the real Death Valley. But yeah, I mentioned we had to get out of there in a hurry. Here's why. We wanted to go here. If you don't know what this is the Hideaway. Very famous in the show Live PD. It's comedic gold, and we had to make our pilgrimage over to Nye County, Nevada. So after all of this, Joshua Tree, Death Valley, what are my takeaways? Well, I'll tell you this. They rank highly. I have been fortunate enough to venture a couple of great national parks. Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, Zion, Bryce Canyon. I've seen some really awesome national parks, and these are up here with them. The Southwest is awesome. SoCal is awesome. 10 out of 10 recommend these things. If you ever find yourself in the area, do it. I have a lot more content coming your way, so please like and subscribe. If you like any additional information, I'm happy to share any other material I have. Likewise, you can always find more information on the national park websites. Well, thank you for joining. We'll see you on the next one. Later.